You ever have one of those moments where everything just stops? Like the world freezes but inside you something starts to burn? That was me, standing in my parents' backyard on a humid June evening, holding a paper plate full of overcooked ribs and half-eaten potato salad, watching my younger brother, Tyler, slap my 7-year-old daughter across the face in front of 20 people. I didn't drop the plate. I didn't scream. I didn't run to her. I just stared. Because I couldn't believe it. I couldn't process it. Let me back up. My name is Haley Carter, 34, single mom, elementary school teacher. My daughter, Maisie, is sunshine with curly brown hair. He's sweet. She's loud. She's 7. We were at my dad's 68th birthday barbecue. My entire family was there. Uncles, cousins, people I hadn't seen since before my divorce. Maisie had been laughing too loud while playing tag with her cousins. Tyler, my 31-year-old brother, a former Marine with a chip on his shoulder the size of Texas, decided that was a problem. He didn't yell at her. Didn't ask her to quiet down. He just walked up and slapped her. Hard. Her head jerked to the side. Her cheek instantly flushed red. And silence fell like a guillotine. Then laughter. From my parents. My dad, the same man who used to scream at me for disrespecting adults. My mom, who always said, "We don't air family problems." They laughed. Like it was funny. Like disciplining my daughter wasn't my job. Tyler just stood there, arms crossed, glaring down at Maisie like she was a dog who peed on his boots. And something inside me snapped. I walked to Maisie, knelt and gently lifted her chin. "You okay, baby?" She nodded, tearful but proud. Brave. Stronger than me, maybe. I kissed her forehead, stood up and turned to Tyler. I didn't slap him. Not then. I just said, "You shouldn't have done that." He smirked. "Someone had to. He's out of control. You coddle her." And then my mom chimed in, sipping wine like it was just another Tuesday. "It's nothing, Haley. You're too sensitive. That girl's always screeching. It's exhausting." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even argue. I just nodded. And I smiled. Because in that moment I decided, this would be the last time they ever humiliated me, or hurt my daughter. They didn't know it yet, but the countdown had started. I was going to burn everything they thought they controlled to the damn ground. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But I wasn't interested in cold. I wanted them to feel it. I wanted it to sizzle down their spines, keep them up at night, doubting everything they thought they knew. So I waited. I spent the next few days tending to Maisie's bruised cheek, not just the skin but her spirit. She didn't want to go outside. Didn't want to play. And when I asked her what was wrong, she just whispered, "What if Uncle Tyler gets mad again?" I told her he wouldn't. I promised her. And I meant it. But I didn't tell her what I was planning. She didn't need to know the fire I was stoking behind the scenes. My parents and Tyler thought I was the black sheep. The soft one. The one who got pregnant in college, got divorced 5 years later, and now lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with a cat named Waffles and too many overdue library books. They didn't know I'd spent the last 3 years working a side gig, writing grants for nonprofits. After Maisie went to bed, I'd squirreled away money. Not a lot, but enough. They didn't know I was quietly buying stock in the family's legacy business. See, my father owns Carter and Sons Memorials, a custom gravestone and monument business. It's been in our family for 3 generations. Everyone assumed Tyler would take over one day. Everyone but me. Because what they didn't know was that my grandfather's will, my father's father, split ownership 60-40 between my father and me. But his grandpa hated Tyler. Hated how violent he was as a kid. Hated how my parents coddled him. Hated the way he looked at women like they were furniture. And most of all, Grandpa adored Maisie. Called her, the little light in this grim-ass family. He told me 2 weeks before he died, "When I'm gone, don't let your father give it all to that little tyrant. The stones bear our name. But it's your name too." Turns out, Grandpa had quietly amended the trust before he passed. The only reason I didn't say anything when he died? I didn't want it. Not then. But now. Oh, now I did. I dug up the paperwork from my safe, had my lawyer verify the trust documents, and started attending board meetings virtually under my full legal name, Haley Elizabeth Carter, as silent partner. Tyler never noticed. He was too busy consulting on new monument designs, aka stealing the blueprints from the junior designer and pretending they were his. My dad let him. My mom made excuses. It was the family pattern. Until I showed up. At the next board meeting. In person. It was held in the main office conference room. Long oak table, old portraits on the wall. Same thick dust of male entitlement that had been settling there for decades. I walked in wearing a navy blue dress and a look that said, "This isn't a visit." Tyler blinked like he'd seen a ghost. My dad said, "Haley, what are you doing here?" I dropped a folder on the table. Neatly tabbed. Index. Signed by the estate attorney and trust manager. "I'm here," I said, calm and clear, as co-owner of Carter & Sons Memorials. Silence. Then laughter, again. From my dad. "Haley, sweetheart, that was a temporary clause. You never even took part. You've never shown any interest in the business." I smiled. "I'm showing it now." Tyler stood, red creeping up his neck. "This is *T. You don't know the first thing about this company. You're not taking what's mine." "Interesting," I said, flipping to the highlighted page, "because according to the documents, it's ours. And actually, your entire promotion last year wasn't even legal, because the board never signed off on it." "I didn't. Which means you're not technically vice president." I let that hang in the air like the smell of a fresh grave. Then I leaned forward. "But don't worry. I'm not firing you." He smirked. Kept going. "I'm reassigning you. Effective immediately, you'll be head of quality control. In the warehouse. You'll be reviewing gravestone alignment and engraving depths full-time. Day shifts. Saturdays included. Starting tomorrow." "You can't be serious," he spat. "I'm serious. And I can do this." Dad tried to stand, voice rising. "Tao, wait just a..." "No," I said. "You wait. You sat back while your son hit my daughter. You laughed. You let him humiliate me in front of the whole family and you called it parenting. So now, you sit. And listen." Neither of them moved. "Maisie is never setting foot in that house again. I'll never ask for an apology because I know I won't get one. But I will protect her. And I will burn every inch of this legacy to the ground before I let your toxicity pass into her world." I gathered my folder, nodded to the silent board members and walked out. Outside in my car I called my lawyer. "File the paperwork," I said. "We're splitting the company. Let them keep their name. I'm founding my own wing." She chuckled. "Same business." "No," I said. "I'll offer something different. For families who actually care how their loved ones are remembered. Not people who slap children and think it's discipline." Back home I tucked Maisie in bed. Her cheek had faded from red to pale pink. She looked up at me and asked, "Are they gonna hit me again?" I kissed her forehead. "No, baby. They won't even get the chance." And that night I slept. Not because everything was okay, but because the storm had passed. And I was the storm. I didn't think I'd ever go back to my parents' house again. And I didn't, for a long time. Until the call came. It was late September when my mother phoned me, voice cracked like dry leaves. "Haley," she said without preamble, "it's your father. He collapsed at the office. Heart attack." There was a long pause. "He's gone." And just like that, everything that had been years of resentment, bitterness, and silence was pierced by something quieter. Not grief exactly. More like gravity. Like something had shifted beneath the foundation of everything we all stood on. I said nothing for a moment. Then, "I'm sorry to hear that. Is Tyler okay?" A bitter laugh from her end. "Is Tyler?" He punched a hole in the break room wall and told the coroner he's taking over now. I bet he did. The funeral was scheduled 3 days later. A full-blown public event. My dad was a known figure in the community. Donated to churches, sponsored the local high school baseball team, hosted those ridiculous faith and family luncheons where he wore a cross on his chest but carried contempt in his eyes. Of course, they held the service at the family chapel, the one I had funded renovations for with my half of the profits over the last quarter. Not that anyone gave me credit. And Tyler? He was going full martyr. Black suit. Aviators. Arms crossed like some mafia prince mourning his dawn. I almost didn't go. But then, I realized something. This was the moment. The perfect stage. The public funeral, not for my father but for the illusion of the Carter name. So I showed up. I walked into the chapel holding Maisie's hand. She wore a soft navy blue dress with yellow sunflowers embroidered at the hem. I'd asked her if she wanted to come, she said, only if I can wear my favorite dress. Grandpa never liked it, but I do. Then that's the one, I told her. Eyes turned when we entered. I could feel the tension shift. Not because of me, because of her. The little girl who'd been slapped in front of this very family. And the woman next to her who'd stopped being quiet. Tyler locked eyes with me from across the room. His face was stone. My mother sat near the front, already crying, a tissue balled in one hand like it owed her something. I found my seat 2 rows back. Sat down. Waited. The service began like every other Southern funeral. Hymns, praise, and awkward mentions of good men who hadn't been good in private. The pastor fumbled through his eulogy, cherry-picking Bible verses my father never lived by. And then came the family reflections. Tyler walked up first. He talked about legacy. About building the Carter name. About how his father taught him what it means to be a man. I almost choked on my breath. Then he pivoted. Subtle but sharp. And in times like these, he said, voice calm but carrying, we have to be careful who steps into leadership. Because not everyone in the family shares the same values. Some would rather divide than unite. Some were barely even part of this company until recently. A few heads turned toward me. Exactly as he wanted. I stayed still. Maisie squeezed my hand. Tyler ended with a smirk and stepped down. And then I stood. The chapel hushed. I hadn't asked to speak. I wasn't on the program. But I didn't need permission. I walked slowly up to the podium, heels echoing in the chamber like punctuation marks. I took the mic. My name is Haley Carter. I'm his daughter. Another pause. A few murmurs. I wasn't going to speak today. I wasn't sure I had anything to say. But I realize now I do. I looked down at the casket. The polished granite. My father taught me a lot of things. Some of them were good. Most of them were warnings. A quiet ripple moved through the crowd. He taught me how to hold pain behind a smile. How to pretend everything's fine even when your soul is cracked in half. How to let a man scream at you and still make his dinner afterward. My voice didn't shake. I made sure of that. But here's the other thing he taught me, whether he meant to or not. He taught me how to endure. How to survive in a house that didn't have room for girls who spoke up. And in doing so he made me stronger than he ever realized. Tyler shifted in his seat. My mother looked like she might stand but didn't. And when my brother struck my daughter in front of this family, when my parents laughed, I realized something. Legacy isn't about blood. It's about who you protect. Who you stand up for. Who you love loud even when it's inconvenient. I could feel the room's temperature changing. People were listening. So today I'm not mourning the man in that casket. I'm mourning the silence we were forced to live in. The generations of obedience that killed our voices. I turned slightly. My eyes found Tyler's. And as of today, the Carter legacy doesn't belong to the men in this room. It belongs to the next generation. To daughters who won't be slapped into submission. To sons who won't be raised to believe anger is strength. I placed a small sunflower on the edge of the casket. Maisie's favorite. Then walked back to my seat. And when I looked down at her, she smiled. After the funeral, people came up to me. Some awkward. Some tearful. But one by one they said the same thing. Thank you. Tyler didn't speak to me. He stormed out before the reception even began. My mother stared at me for a long time, then finally approached. You humiliated us, she whispered. No, I said. You did that to yourselves. I just gave it a mic. That night I got an email from one of the board members. The subject line, proposal. They wanted to merge the business under my new brand. A clean slate. Separate from the name Carter and Sons. I said yes. And I renamed it, Sun and Stone Memorials. Because pain will always be a part of life. But so will light. And I'll make sure my daughter knows the difference. The grand opening of Sun and Stone Memorials was on a Saturday morning, 3 months after the funeral. We didn't make it fancy. Just a small event in front of the renovated building with a food truck and live music from a local jazz trio. The ribbon cutting was simple. No fanfare. Just a pair of shears, some burlap ribbon, and my daughter's hand holding mine. I'd found an old photo of Grandpa Carter. One where he was standing proudly in front of the original shop with dust on his boots and pride in his eyes. I had it framed and hung in the new lobby. I wanted people to see him, not the legacy that had rotted under his son's rule. The shop had changed. We still made headstones and memorials, but now we offered story stones. Custom-carved markers with etched quotes, hand-painted symbols, poems written by family members. The focus was on memory, not just marble. Grief with warmth. Goodbye with dignity. It didn't take long for word to spread. People who'd never felt comfortable at Carter and Sons, LGBTQ families, people of color, single mothers, started showing up saying, "We heard you, listen." And we did. Maisie, now 8, came by the shop after school most days. She'd sit behind the counter with her glitter pens and make up stone stories for the pets buried in the memorial garden out back. She had one for a goldfish named Admiral Bubbles who died heroically in battle. I'd look at her, happy, loud, completely herself, and think, this is the legacy I'm building. Right here. But peace has a way of drawing ghosts. Tyler came to the shop on a Wednesday. I saw him through the window. Same square shoulders, same bitter eyes, only this time, smaller. He stepped in, looked around. Everything was changed. The paint, the layout, the vibe. The Carter legacy had been peeled back, scraped off, and something human had been built in its place. He didn't speak right away. Finally, he muttered, "Place looks different." I nodded. "It is." He walked over to a polished black headstone on display, traced the lettering with his fingers. "You got the board to back you," he said, not quite a question. "They came to me. People were tired of the old way." He scoffed. "Dad built this business. Everything you got because of him." I looked at him, calm. "No. I got this because of Grandpa. And because I worked 2 jobs for 3 years with no help from you or Mom or anyone." Silence. Then he looked at me, and for the first time in a long time, there was no hate in his face. Just tiredness. "Look," he said, "I messed up with Maisie. I know that. I grew up thinking that's how you handled things." "You didn't grow up," I said flatly. "You stayed the boy who got praised for being angry. And you hit a child. That's not discipline. That's cowardice." He flinched. And then, finally, he said something real. "I don't know how to fix it." I exhaled. "You don't," I said. "Some things you don't fix. You just leave. Let them be." Another long pause. Then he nodded. "I'm leaving town," he said. "Got a job in Colorado. Heavy equipment. Figured maybe a clean start." For the first time in years, I didn't feel rage when I looked at him. I felt distance. And I was okay with that. "Good," I said. "That's a good call." He looked around once more, then turned to leave. At the door, he hesitated. "Tell her I'm sorry," he said, voice rough. I shook my head. "No. You tell her when you're ready to be better. Not before." He nodded once, left, and didn't look back. 2 weeks later, my mother showed up. No warning. No call. She stood on my porch holding a small tin of lemon bars. My favorite as a kid. I didn't let her inside. We sat on the steps. She looked older. Softer. Or maybe just tired of pretending. "I want to see Maisie," she said. I sipped my tea. "She doesn't want to see you." "Not yet." A flicker of pain crossed her face. But she didn't argue. "I miss her," she said. "You didn't protect her," I replied. "You watched a grown man hit her and you laughed." Her voice cracked. "I was wrong." "Yes," I said. "You were." She took a breath. "Can I write to her? Letters maybe? No pressure. Just so she knows I'm trying." I looked at her for a long moment. The woman who taught me to make pie crust but never taught me how to speak up. Who always said, family first, even when that meant truth last. "Start with that," I said. "Letters." She smiled through tears. "Thank you." I didn't smile back. But I nodded. And that was enough, for now. The final piece of revenge wasn't loud. It wasn't public. It was what I didn't do. I didn't go on social media to expose my family. I didn't leak videos or write towel blogs. I let them live in the silence they tried to force on me for years. But that silence, now it was mine. On my terms. Maisie thrives now. She's louder than ever. Laughs like she's invincible. I don't tell her to be quiet. I tell her to be clear. To use her voice. Even when people flinch. Especially when they flinch. Last week she came home with a school assignment. Draw your family. She drew me. Her. Waffles the cat. And then, a gravestone. With flowers. I raised an eyebrow. That's for the old Carter place, she said. The part that died. I buried it. I stared at her, heart cracking open and being filled at the same time. She smiled and added, but I planted sunflowers on top. This isn't a story about revenge, really. It's about rewriting a legacy. One where fear doesn't inherit the earth. Where little girls get to be loud. And where stone carries the truth, not just the name. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.